Hi everyone, welcome to week 4 of Guerrilla Leader. I'm Rachel and I'm the guest presenter this week, and we're going to be grilling Ed, whose specialist subject is the environment.
Great, thanks Rachel. My name's Cass, for anyone who doesn't know me as well, and I'm the youth pastor at Queen's Park, and I'm loving the fact that we're getting to grill our other leaders. So Ed, it's great to have you with us tonight. Thank you for joining us. I get the pleasure as well of asking you some of the random questions that have been sent in through social media, some of the random, really important questions that people want to know about you. And we do actually start off with one I feel is probably one of the most important questions that we need to ask everybody. Ed,
okay.
Do you prefer brown sauce or tomato ketchup?
It's got to be tomato ketchup, red sauce. Yeah.
Good choice. Good choice.
Easy one.
Okay, I've got another really important one for you. Tea or coffee?
Coffee. Yeah, coffee. I probably drink more tea, but I do like coffee, definitely. Yeah.
Ed, what is your favourite sport?
Oh my goodness. I'd probably say surfing or windsurfing, but I haven't done either of those things for quite a few years, so I guess that doesn't count. Maybe biking, road biking.
Surfing or windsurfing is a pretty cool one to come out with. It's slightly different to the usual kind of football, tennis, rugby even.
I don't watch a lot of sport or you know, I tend to just enjoy doing outdoor kind of stuff and trying to keep fit. But yeah, I don't really follow a lot of sport, so I'm not a very good one for that. But yeah, anything outside, if you can get wet and muddy and dirty and have a good time, then all the better. Great.
There is a question here. All I'm going to say to you is, you have worked in youth ministry before. Think of the risk assessment. Talking of the outdoors, can you build the youth a cool swing like the one in your back garden?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure we could string something up to the church spire, something like that. You know.
Great, you can write the risk assessment to go with it. That'd be brilliant.
Perhaps next time we're away for the weekend, you know, I could bring a few bits of rope with me and we can have a go at something. Sounds good.
I'm sure people would love that. Just another one then. What you talked about outdoors, and I'm wondering if that might feature in this slightly, but question, where is your favourite place that you've ever visited?
Wow, that's a tough question. I could probably say somewhere like, I've been to California. I saw a friend get married in California, so some of the beaches along there were just most amazing. But actually, I'm probably most at home on the south coast of England, along a sort of a tacky sort of beachfront, just messing about, playing in the sea, and just having a good time, enjoying the view, and messing about in the water. So somewhere like that, yeah.
Sounds great. I'm going to chuck one of my own questions in here, Ed. So I mentioned earlier that you have been involved in youth ministry, that you were a youth worker for a while. I would like to know the craziest story that you can share publicly that happened to you whilst you were working in youth ministry.
There was a few. I did get introduced as head turner, not Ed Turner, on my first day. That was a bit confusing for people. I did cut a few of the teenagers' hair one weekend away, and one of them went to Glasgow Academy, and his mum was particularly unimpressed with his haircut. You can get these bits on the hair clippers that do you like a short bit around the ears, but I'd put them on the wrong way round. So he had like these ridiculously short bits over his ears, and those were the days back in the year sort of 2000 when people didn't have short bits on the side of their heads, you know, so it looked pretty bad. So I haven't cut a lot of hair since then, but I was definitely not popular with his mum, who had to take him to the barbers before he went back to school on the Monday morning. So yeah, there's a few I could tell you. I took some kids to Romania 2 or 3 times, and definitely a few stories about sleeping in caves, having campfires at the front of the cave, and the whole cave got full of smoke, so we all got lost in the cave, and there was definitely no risk assessment there. But anyway, maybe save those for another day.
They sound like the kind of thing people should come and ask you about. I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I forget about these things because, you know, for me, they were so long ago, but yeah, absolutely. Please come and have a chat sometime. Sounds good.
Great. Tell us a little bit then about when and where you became a Christian.
Well, I was 8 years old. I was on an SU type holiday. It wasn't an SU holiday, but it was an SU type kind of setup, and it was a kind of week-long thing in the summer. And I really remember a real presence of God, and just like a traditional kind of gospel talk, I guess. But as I remember coming up to the front, you know, you kind of come forward for prayer, typical kind of thing. And I just really remember this kind of floating kind of feeling as I came forwards. And I remember that I was 8 years old. I'm pretty sure I was, but that's just what you remember, you know. And there's a few other special moments at Soul Survivor. I did go to Soul Survivor in the 90s, believe it or not, a long time ago, that I really remember God's kind of presence and just amazing kind of encounters of ministry, that kind of thing that really cemented my faith, I guess. I probably went on a bit of an up and a down journey through kind of high school life, but certainly in the summer, kind of getting away to these kinds of things like Soul Survivor were really important and really key for sort of committing as a Christian, I suppose. Yeah, that was probably it, I guess, 8 years old, but yeah, up and down since then. I suppose as a student, I went away from home as a student when I was 18, never went back, or not for a long period of time. And I guess at that point, I really had to decide, do I want to do this thing? Do I want to be a Christian, or do I want to not bother? When you're away from home, obviously, you know, your mum's not there to drag you to church. So that was a major thing for me. On my first day at university, some guy said to a whole group of people, has anyone heard of Delirious? And back in the 1997, Delirious were just starting out, but they were pretty big if you were Christian. So 3 of us put our hands up, and I'm still in touch with one of the guys, and we were really good Christian friends. So that made a massive difference. I had really good Christian kind of friends at university, which was really important, I suppose, you know, living away from home at that age. You know, anything can happen, and it kind of did, but at the same time, you know, really cemented my kind of faith, I suppose. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Brilliant. And so just for anybody who's not sure about who Delirious are, Delirious were like massive when I was a teenager. Ed, totally with you. But
Yeah.
some people might have heard of Martin Smith, and he was kind of the lead guy for Delirious. So he's just known by his own name now rather than in the band, I guess. So
ask anyone who's kind of over 30 probably, and up to 50 something, and they'll probably be Delirious fans from those days.
Yeah.
Ask your parents, basically.
So Ed, talking a bit about your faith, a couple of weeks ago, you and your family were on QP Live, and you were sharing some different things around prayer. One of the things you shared was your thankfulness jar. First of all, can you tell us a lot?
Right back there, I don't know if you can see, there's 3 of them.
Look at that.
Brackets, so that's it.
So can you just tell us, first of all, a little bit about what they are? What are thankfulness jars?
I don't know where the idea came from. It might have been a QP thing, I'm not sure, but we just get the kids. We've got 3 kids, if you don't know, 7, 5 and 4, and they kind of scribble something down, or they ask us to write something down, and we put it in. So it might be something stupid like, you know, thank you God for my baby dolls, or my babies, like Lucy says, or thank you God for Minecraft, you know. But actually the kids do really engage with this, and they love to scribble stuff down. So it's kind of friends at school, or kind of I don't know, stuff that we've done a day out, church, QP, people like that. They talk about Mary quite a lot, that kind of thing. So it's really important, actually. And the first time we did it, we spent ages and ages doing it, and we just literally filled them just like within about half an hour. They just kind of went for it. So I guess it's just really important, the state of mind. You know, I think in these days it's a real battle of the mind. You know, and are you gonna worry, and are you gonna think the worst, or are you gonna try and be positive and expect, you know, better things to come? And I'm not saying not to be real with sort of feelings of kind of maybe grief or sadness. You know, we need to be real with our feelings, but at the same time, you know, if we focus our minds on what is good and what is true, and, you know, things of our faith, then I think that makes such a difference and really changes our mood. So we try and do this with our young guys, and if you can get a 4-year-old to be thankful, then I guess you can get anybody to be thankful, you know. And I guess I try and do that even in my team at work. I try and speak positively about stuff, and hopefully it's kind of rubs off and affects everybody, you know. That's the thing.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And do you have any other kind of helpful little ideas like that to help us in our prayer lives, to help us with that kind of mindset as well?
I don't know, for me, getting outside just makes a difference. I can step out the back door, and if I'm feeling a bit down, if I'm feeling like the world's on top of me, it's amazing. Like 2 steps out the back door and I'm like, oh yeah, I feel better now. You know, my head's a bit clearer. Just getting out for a walk, getting out for some time with God when I'm at work, like not at home at work, but at home at work in the office. I like to get out at lunchtime, go for a wander, talk to God a little bit, and just get a bit of space. And that really helps me just to pray and kind of turn things through. I really like to write my prayers down. I don't know if that's an old-fashioned thing, but I use my phone and I write a note, and that really helps me to concentrate, because I'm terrible at concentrating. I'm really bad at reading books. I just can't sit still very long, but if I'm sat writing something, either typing it or something, it just helps me. So I like to do that as for kind of 5-10 minutes even in the morning before I get out of bed. And that just really helps me to settle my mind and name a few people or a few things that I'm thinking of. And that otherwise I find that I'm just not very good at remembering to pray. And if you think, oh, I'll pray when I'm on the bus or whatever, then you get on the bus and then you get off the bus and you've forgotten to pray, you know. So I like to try and have a routine with these kind of things, but routines don't suit everybody, of course, you know. So, but I need a routine.
Great, thank you. You mentioned work there quite a bit, so I'm going to hand over to Rachel, who's going to pick up with some more questions for you.
Thank you.
Yes, so why don't you just tell us a bit about what your job is and what you do?
Okay, well, I work for SEPA, that's the Scottish Environment Protection Agency. So I've done that for nearly 18 years, which sounds a very long time. But yeah, but basically SEPA are the environmental regulator for Scotland. They do a lot of kind of flood warning and flood forecasting as well. But yeah, I joined them on a kind of graduate scheme, and I've kind of stayed with them just because I've really liked working for them. The conditions are good. I work a 4-day week, so I work longer hours Monday to Thursday, then I get a Friday off, which is pretty good. It's great. But yeah, I guess I just enjoy having that kind of job where I feel like I can do something kind of positive for the environment. As you've heard, I love the outdoors. I've always loved from a young age being in the Scouts and going away camping most weekends. I just love the outdoors and environment, and it's always been important to me. My student friends used to say, one day you'll end up working with computers. You'll never really get a job in the environment, you know, but actually, obviously, and you know, I have done. And these days, the environment is one of the biggest topics, you know. So from the days when we just used to colour in things at universities, you know, now it's really important. And yeah, at SEPA, I work in a landfill tax team, which sounds very boring, but we go around all the landfill sites in Scotland, the rubbish dumps. We check they're paying enough tax, which is all about trying to reduce the amount of waste that goes to landfill. And it's the biggest probably factor in changing the amount of waste that's gone to landfill in the last like 20 years. I could speak for hours on it, but I'm not going to do that because you'll be all bored and asleep. But basically, yeah, it's all about reducing how much rubbish we put in the ground that produces yucky, nasty gases, and means that we lose the materials out of, you know, the resources kind of cycle that ideally you'd recover, you know. So yeah, that's enough for me. Yeah, thanks.
That's really good. I suppose that kind of covers the second question as well, but I'll ask it anyway. So what initially made you want to work sort of with the environment?
Yeah, I guess, as I said, I just from a young age, I've always loved being outside, loved doing stuff outside, activities outside. And for me, it seems really important that we look after creation and we look after the world that we live in. I would probably also say that I'm not like an environmentalist, you know, or somebody that goes out marching and campaigning for environmental kind of issues. You know, they are really important to me, and I do try and do my kind of bit. But I guess, you know, you've got to find what's right for you, and you know, you can't don't try and fit in a bubble of going really far with things that might be a bit too extreme, I guess, for some people. I'm also a dad of 3 kids, and you can only do so much with your time, and obviously love doing stuff with the youth as well, and how much time have you got in the world. But I guess it's just things that are important to me. So yeah.
What is your favorite thing about your job, and what is the most challenging part of your job?
Okay, so for the last 2 years or so, I've been a manager. I've managed a team of 8 people at SEPA, so I've really enjoyed that, and I really enjoy working with people and trying to get the best out of people, trying to motivate people, trying to find out how to get people working more efficiently on the things that they enjoy. So that's been really good. Sometimes managing people is also difficult when you've got to deliver difficult news, or managing people through a time such as this, or kind of HR-y type boring things are sometimes a bit difficult to deal with. But it's always been okay. But I guess just getting out and seeing the world, like SEPA officers go to all sorts of really smelly places. I could tell you loads of stories about smelly places, like a pet food factory that was cooking up pig's ears for dog chews, and there was like maggots everywhere, and it was really bad. Into like abattoirs, loads of sewage works to take samples and all sorts of stuff like that. So I just love the variety as well that SEPA does, and I've done lots of those types of jobs over the years. Challenging part, I was back in December last year, I was in court because SEPA Revenue Scotland took a court case, and we work with Revenue Scotland that takes the landfill tax for the landfill sites in Scotland, and it was a huge court case that we worked on for nearly 5 years, and I spent a whole day in the dock being cross-examined by quite a top QC, like a really senior lawyer, and that was really tough, and because he really attacked me as a person and the work that we'd done, and it was just really hard to kind of endure. It was like the worst job interview you ever had, with somebody that really hates you and really wants you to do badly, and it lasted about 6 hours. So we needed a few days to get back to normal sleep again after that. But it's all part of the kind of work that we do, I suppose. It just doesn't happen very often, that kind of thing. So that's my challenging part.
Yeah. Wow. Why do you think young people should care about the environment?
Well, I don't think young people need to worry. I think young people are leading the way. Obviously we've seen like Greta from Sweden, and like young people are just amazing. I've been to the primary school that our kids go to 3 times the last few years to talk to them about environmental kind of issues, and young people know more than any other generation about looking after the environment, and they are the best at recycling and doing all the good stuff. So I think it's the other generations that need to probably get their act together. But obviously, it's the future. The planet that we live on is the future for young people, so they're going to be here longer than anybody else. And so I guess they have the biggest interest in terms of looking after the planet. And it's such a great thing now that we've got this climate emergency, that the government have declared, and for once it's not like a side issue. It is one of the main issues that the government are looking at and dealing with. So absolutely, young people go for it. And Greta is a fantastic example of how old was she? 15, 16 or something when she started this movement that's gone around the world and changed political leaders, and it's done amazing stuff. So it's just such a great thing that's happened with all that. So
yeah. How has studying the environment impacted your life or changed your view of the world?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's hard to know because it's just been the way that I've always been. But I guess I'm constantly reminded of the world that we live in, and how best to live. And I hear my chief executive of SEPA talking about 3 planets. We get all the resources we need from 1 planet, but we're using 3 planets worth in Scotland and in the UK. So we just don't have enough resources and carbon and energy to go round, basically. So it's a topsy-turvy world where the rich and the wealthy countries are using up far too much. And we just can't go on like this. We can't go on using up the resources and the finite sort of precious metals and stuff in our phones and all that kind of thing for decades and years to come. So just little things like that I'm just constantly reminded of, with doing my kind of job. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. In your opinion, what do you think is currently the biggest threat to our environment?
That is a virtually impossible question, but it's just my opinion. There's been loads of chat about plastics recently and the amount of plastic we use, and so I guess that's it. And obviously, I live quite near the Clyde, and if you go for a walk down there, you can see all sorts of stuff that's overflowed in the storms from the sewers, and you get bits of plastic in the bushes and things by the river. And I guess it's a big thing. Apparently by the year 2050 there'll be more pieces of plastic than fish in the ocean. So I was telling the primary school kids that recently, which is a pretty crazy statistic. And we've all seen pictures of turtles and other kind of seabirds and stuff with plastic wrapped around them, or so many hundred pieces of plastic in a dead seabird. So I think that is pretty major kind of thing. But obviously the other major thing is obviously carbon kind of emissions and the greenhouse effect and rising sea levels. Some countries are literally going to be underwater in a few decades time, which is pretty crazy. We're probably fine in Scotland with all the hills that we've got here, but it's a big deal. Climate change is happening. It's a big thing.
Yeah. Do you have any practical advice for people that want to live in a way that helps the environment?
Well, yeah, just do the little things, I mean, it's like that story of the boy who was throwing a starfish back. It's like you can never save 1,000 starfish by throwing them back into the sea, but you could save 1 or 2 as you walk along the beach, and I guess it's the small things. You can think about the way you travel. Could you use public transport more than the car, or getting lifts in the car? If you're purchasing things, is there any way to get something that's just as good secondhand, or maybe fix something if you can repair something or fix something up? I love to fix old things up in the house. Recently, me and the kids fixed our Hoover up because it was flowing. There was like sparks coming out the back of it, and we managed to take it all apart and sort of do the wire. I wouldn't recommend that unless you sort of know what you're doing, or with somebody that does, which isn't me. But anyway, we survived, and yeah, I would just say do the little things you can. Don't worry about changing the world. But if you can think about what you buy, if there's fair trade things to buy, that's really good. Or like you hear people saying, if you cut out meat from your diet, if you're vegetarian, that's the best thing you can do, and that probably is one of the best things you can do in terms of cutting carbon. I don't think there's any way I could manage that. When I'm having my lunches at work, if I'm out somewhere, I try not to get meat. I try and get a cheese sandwich rather than a steak sandwich or something. But if I'm at home with the kids, then we just eat meat because it's kind of what we do at the moment. So maybe that'll change in the future, but that's probably some of the big things you can do. Like electric cars, I think, are going to be the future. We've got a few at work that I've driven, and they're really nice to drive. It just makes sense. Of course, they're a bit more expensive at the moment, but if you're changing your car and you can afford it, then it'd be amazing to have electric cars, because they're going further and further on a charge that make more and more sense. And that's lots of little things you can do.
Cool. How do you involve God in your job and your passion for the environment?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do pray quite a lot for things that I'm working on at work. Sometimes I get into a meeting room and I ask God to help me with a meeting before it happens, and I often find that the meeting goes better if I've done that. I do feel that the two things come together, just like a lot of people's work. It doesn't have to be even something like the environment, or say healthcare, or something where you're doing something that is obviously helping people. I think anything that God calls you to do, if you do that really well, then there's just a natural partnership in the fact that God's using you to do something. And I think that God just uses us, and you can serve God whether you're a youth worker, or if you're working overseas to teach children, or if you're an architect, or if you work in a shop, whatever you do, you can do it, and you can serve God, and I try and do that, and it does seem to tie up with what I do. And I guess if you read in the Bible about the new heavens and the new earth, I suppose all the time, by clearing up an environment and trying to make the world a better place, that's all kind of partnering with God and making this kind of new heavens and new earth that eventually we'll all be enjoying. So there's lots of different sort of dimensions, I suppose, to that. But yeah, I don't really know is the full answer, but there's a few things there.
Cool. So obviously right now we're in lockdown, and you can only be going out once a day, but what are some things that people can be doing right now to appreciate the environment?
Yeah, just enjoy it. Just get out and enjoy what you can see. RSPB are fantastic on their website. There's loads of stuff you can do, and you can identify birds and butterflies and plants in your garden. You can go out and see what's around. We've got some robins that are nesting in our garage, probably because the door was falling off and they could get in. But us and the kids have been amazed at watching these guys go in and out. And we can see 4 eggs in the nest in the garage at the moment. And it's just little things like that you can enjoy. And with the better weather that we've been having as well, it's been just great to get out and go for bike rides and mess about with the kids. And there is loads to enjoy out there, I guess. And it depends what you like. Do something you like. Get some exercise while you're at it. But there's lots to enjoy out there, isn't there? It's good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to you, Kaz.
Thank you. Great job. I've got one more question for you, Ed, which is one of the ones that was put in through Instagram. And so I'm going to read it out to you rather than me trying to put it into my own words, but just to make sure I get it right. So looking at the Scottish CO2 emissions, so the carbon that we're emitting, it's clear to see that transport, especially cars, has one of the largest impacts. So what changes in transport would you like to see the government implement? I know you mentioned electric cars a little minute ago, but I don't know if there's anything else that you think.
That's a great question. So CO2, yeah, I totally agree. Probably CO2 emissions from cars is a big thing, a big problem. Living in Glasgow, we've got a fantastic motorway network that you can get right into the city centre using a car in just a few minutes. So it's very handy. Also, with the old industrial past that Glasgow's come from, we've got a fantastic network of trains and buses and all that. So I guess improvement in public transport would make such a difference. Facilities for electric cars is really good. Any kind of subsidies or free parking or any kind of incentives for that kind of thing would really help. I'm not sure whether charging for parking cars at your workplace is going to be a popular thing. There's been a bit of talk about that. I work at a big office park where there's thousands of car spaces, and I can literally drive and park and walk about 20 yards into my office. So it's very easy, very convenient. Alternatively, I could cycle for about 40 minutes, which I do occasionally or rarely, I should say, or I could get on the train and then kind of walk or run or cycle or something from the train station to the office, but that's going to take quite a long time as well. So it's all about timing, I suppose, so if trains and buses and things could be more frequent or serve some areas better, that's always going to help people use public transport. But we are pretty good in Glasgow particularly, but I suppose the more rural parts of Scotland struggle for public transport, and that's where subsidies and improved services, I suppose, would really make a difference. End of the day, it's a kind of culture that you've got to change, but we are changing as a culture. We're using a lot more electric cars, and even you see electric buses and all sorts of crazy stuff these days. So electric taxis and DPD delivery vans, I've seen a few recently, which is quite exciting. I can always spot them because I'm a bit sad like that, but yeah, who knows. But that is a good question, because that is a big deal, and that's a big thing that would be fantastic if we could change that kind of thing. So good, thanks for that.
It's been great to be able to chat with you tonight, Ed. I'm going to ask you one more question, and that's for you to give us 3 facts about you that you want us to know about. And I didn't prep you for this one, so this is totally off the bat. 3 things that you want to tell us about yourself, random facts, could be anything.
Oh my goodness. Three things. I guess I'm quite a relational person, so I'd say I guess a fact is that I try and put people first, but it's not always easy. I struggle with getting tasks done and putting people first, but I try and put people first. I don't know, facts. I was born the 7th of July 1979, and I was 7 pounds and 14 ounces, and that kind of works quite nicely because there's lots of sevens. That's a bit random, isn't it? I don't know. I grew up in Oxfordshire, spent 20 years in England, and now I've almost spent 20 years in Scotland, so I'm very confused who to support. I love Scotland, love living in Scotland, but also I miss my parents and my home, the area down in the south of England. I kind of miss as well, and not just the people, but there's something about just living down there that I kind of miss. But at the same time, I'm kind of torn between the two because I just love it here too, and obviously family and all that is kind of settled up here. So yeah, it's great. I don't know, is that three? I kind of lost count.
That was definitely three. So thank you very much. Thanks for taking the random question that I just threw at you right at the end there as well.
Why not?
So I want to say thank you to Ed, and a thank you to Rachel for joining us this week. It's been great to have them with us. We will be back next week for another Gorilla Leader. Don't forget, you can find us obviously on this YouTube channel, but also on Instagram and on Facebook as well.